Hey, it's about to go get scared. We're going to be dispelling the fake rumors about how Wilt Chamberlain did not score 100 points in a game. That's right. I am a Wilt believer, and I think most of you guys in the audience should be too, because I mean, it's stupid that I'm even having this conversation. This is the 9/11 isn't real equivalent in the basketball world. All right. And it all started because of these fucking schmucks right here, the fucking Deep Three podcast, these fucking casuals, right? We got Isaac, we got Don, and we got Mo. These guys are like, oh my God, LeBron's the GOAT. Oh my God, MJ second. And then like, but really, Steph Curry could be better than Michael Jordan if you really think about it. Like these guys are, and these 6'7" ass kids that have never seen anyone hoop. They've been alive for the entirety of LeBron's prime. Not even the start of his career, his prime. They've been alive for LeBron James playing. Right? I'm tired of these fuck ass kids and these fuck ass influencers saying that the Wilt Chamberlain game isn't real. All right? So let's dispel this shit. First and foremost, okay, we need to remember Wilt Chamberlain played in the 1962 season when this happened. And the 1962 season was a weird season. Oscar Robertson averaged a 30-point triple-double in 79 games. I need you to understand that. He averaged a 30-point triple-double. This wasn't replicated until Russell Westbrook did it, like, what was it? Over 50 years later? This is ridiculous. I was going to say it's the only one that ever happened. That's when I started consuming basketball stuff. But fortunately, Russ did it 4 times and Jokic did it once. And he's on pace to do it again. And Wilt, this is Wilt's numbers, right? He averaged 50 points a game. I need you to understand 50 points a game. This isn't a normal person that we're dealing with. Nobody has even come close. I think Michael Jordan is what? Like besides Wilt Chamberlain, obviously, because he did multiple ridiculous seasons like this. Michael Jordan averaged 37 at one point. James Harden, I think, had like what, 35, 36 during his like greatest season for scoring. 50 is in another stratosphere. Okay, for reference, like Michael Jordan's 37, like that same differential, you would be looking at like someone who's averaging 26 a night, which is still really good. But obviously, we talk about Michael Jordan's 37 points per game season as like next level ridiculous. 50? Okay, this isn't like we're in uncharted territory right now. All right, like to further add on to this, Wilt is a freak in nature. Okay, you can believe whatever you want here because a lot of people who are Wilt deniers will deny these because it's a lot of hearsay. And yeah, it's true. A lot of Wilt claims are hearsay. But the fact that these are even in conversation, like he was 7'1", weighing 275 pounds, that's ridiculous at the time, by the way. Remember, this is the 60s. So you have plumbers and you have Wilt fucking Chamberlain. He apparently had a 50-inch vertical. I don't believe that. At a sub 11-second 100-yard dash. There's a story that he raced Jim Brown and beat Jim Brown. Okay, so this guy is 7'1", 275 with a 50-inch vertical. And he beat Jim Brown in like a foot race on a basketball court. Not only that, but apparently there's stories about him like picking up 200-pound men with each hand with ease, like it's nothing. There's stories from like, the Terminator Arnold. I'm not gonna say his last name because the way I pronounce it's weird. But Arnold was saying that he could bench press 600 pounds. I don't believe he could bench press 600, but again, in that conversation is fucking ridiculous. They're saying that his max reach was 13.3. I mean, some of these are ridiculous here. Like his standing reach was 9 foot 6 inches in 1956 shoes. This I don't trust this. A 4.6 second hand time 40-yard dash. The fact that he was playing volleyball into his like 50s. These are some ridiculous things to talk about with Wilt Chamberlain. And one thing that like is really hypocritical, especially from these guys, because I've heard this said by the Deep Three podcast, is that they'll say shit like these guys would average 100 in the 60s or they'd be putting up 500 points a game. Okay, what do these all have in common? What does Shaq have in common with LeBron? Oh, shit. What does Shaq have in common with LeBron and Giannis? They're freaks in nature. And again, if there was the same sort of documentation that I guess Wilt had in the 60s and stuff, maybe we'd have a more realistic idea of how ridiculous Wilt is. All right. Which, speaking of, Wilt Chamberlain also banged 20,000 women, which you could do if you sub to Ket. Like, that's just rookie numbers on the Ket is Here channel, you know? Everyone that subs to me tells me that, they call me and they go, Ket, I'm just crushing so much pussy. And it's because I subbed to your channel. And it's like, that's cool. Right? But back to this. All these guys, I think we can agree, would average stupendous numbers that they played in the 60s. Why the hell can't Wilt? I mean, he's a freak of nature. Okay, I think this is the dumbest claim because you can't say one and then not the other. All right, next thing about Wilt Chamberlain that I want to talk about with the 1962 season in particular. The game happened in 1962. All right, in that season. I Have a Dream didn't happen until 1963. Civil rights wasn't passed until 64. Now you might be wondering, Ken, why is this relevant? Well, look at Wilt, okay? He's black. Do you think that the National Basketball Association, that is owned and run by a bunch of rich white guys who likely have prejudice against African Americans, they won't even let them drink out of the same water fountains and ride in the same seats on the bus as them. Do you think the NBA, when they have Jerry West, when they have fucking, I guess George Mikan had retired at that point, right? I got to double check that. But you got like Bob Cousy, you've got Jerry West, you've got, I guess Jerry West was in this. But the point is, you have all these white guys that'd be studs, and you make Wilt the Stilt Chamberlain the guy to have 100 points in a game. I think that doesn't make any sense to me. It's like, why would the National Basketball Association push this guy? The big, the big freak of nature, scary athletic black guy, as opposed to, I don't know, some guy with a little bit of fundamentals in him. A little Bob Cousy. I don't know. This just never made any sense to me. Like, if the game happened in 1962, why is it that we push Wilt Chamberlain as opposed to any other All-Star? All right, moving on to my final thing is, I've heard this said from, I believe it was Don. He said, all we have is a piece of paper. We have footage of the moon landing, but we don't have any footage of the basketball game. Okay, but we have a fourth quarter radio broadcast of the game, which, again, lost media, sure. But the fact of the matter is, the NBA isn't what it is today. There weren't cameras in the stadium, but there was an audience of like thousands to see the game. There's stories written by multiple people about it, and the NBA officially recognizes it. So regardless of whether or not you believe it, you can suck my balls because the NBA officially claims that it's real. Right? And I'm tired of this slander because what's going on is that you have these modern people talking about basketball. And I appreciate them, right? I fuck with this podcast heavy. But what I don't like is when they start bashing old heads and they start bashing the old generation of basketball, saying that like, oh, you guys were plumbers back then, or, oh, your GOAT isn't as good as my GOAT. Because of this whole LeBron James and Michael Jordan GOAT debate, they discount anybody that isn't before, LeBron. Obviously, basketball's gotten better. The modern era has seen some absolutely ridiculous phenoms. We had Steph Curry. We had LeBron James. I'm very blessed to grow up in that time. Obviously, I still remember Tim Duncan and hell, I remember some Kobe. But at the end of the day, like, these youngins, they don't know anything outside of what the old heads will tell you. And so I feel like it's disrespectful that we forget about how freakishly athletic Wilt is. Because time and time again, it seems like people are disrespecting Wilt Chamberlain so much because it is unfathomable to imagine that somebody was putting up 50 points a night for an NBA season. It's ridiculous to think about somebody who put up 100 points in a game, yet it happened. Right? And Occam's razor says, like, make the explanation that seems the most reasonable. Do you think that thousands of people would be gaslit into saying that the game never happened? Do you think that the NBA would propagate this guy in 1962, an African American, before civil rights was a thing, back when back when white people and black people were not drinking out of the same water fountains and sitting on the same seats on the bus? Do you think they would propagate Wilt Chamberlain to be, the guy to do superhuman things in the NBA? Do you think that there's this massive conspiracy and people hadn't already looked into this and they've dug up all that they can to figure out that Wilt is a freak of nature? You ask me, I think that he did put up 100 in the game. And I think that this is like the equivalent of saying 9/11 didn't happen or that George Bush planned 9/11. You're going to have people that are going to plead ignorance because they need video footage of it. And I think that's ridiculous. All right. Wilt is a freak of nature. I think he's the greatest freak of nature in the history of basketball. Maybe the greatest athlete of all time. But that's a story for, I guess, another time. And with that, I've been Ked. Thank you so much for watching. And to anybody in the audience that tells you that Wilt Chamberlain didn't drop 100 points in a game, tell them, right, and be very polite with this, that they are, one, an ephebophile, two, like the taste of nutsack if they are a straight dude. But if they're like a gay man, you can tell them that like they eat pussy. And if they're a lesbian, like, just let them be. And put some fucking respect on Wilt's name. All right. You guys have a great day. Get out of here. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.